Now I'm doing an audiobook on the book of Yasher, and I want to read something from the book of Yasher. You will find it on my YouTube channel shortly. It is 91 chapters, but it is wow. It is so beautifully written, and the book of Yasher is referred to in the book of Joshua in the Old Testament, and in 2 Samuel, the Old Testament book. And it was translated in 1840 from the original Hebrew into English, and was reprinted of photolithography, reprinted of exact edition, and published by J.H. Perry and Company in Salt Lake City in 1887. Now, this book of Yasher should definitely be in the Bible. I'm going to read from the book of Yasher, chapter 9, and from verse, I'm going to read from verse 23. And this is about when Nimrod was king of Babel, and they were building the Tower of Babel. And all the families assembled, consisting of about 600,000 men, and they went to seek an extensive piece of ground to build the city and the tower. And they sought in the whole earth, and they found none like one valley at the east of the land of Shinar, about 2 days' walk from where they were dwelling. And they journeyed there, and they dwelt there. And then they began to make bricks and burn fires to build the city and the tower that they had imagined to complete. And the building of the tower was unto them a transgression and a sin, and they began to build it. And whilst they were building against the Lord God of heaven, they imagined in their hearts to war against him and to ascend into heaven. And all these people and all the families divided themselves in 3 parts. The first one said, "We will ascend into heaven and fight against him." The second said, "We will ascend to heaven and place our own gods there and then serve them." The third part said, "We will ascend into heaven and smite him with bows and spears." And God, Yahweh, knew all their works and all their evil thoughts. And he saw the city and the tower that they were building. And when they were building, they built themselves a great city and a very high and strong tower. And on account of its height, the mortar and bricks did not reach the builders in their ascent to it, until those who went up had completed a full year. And after that they reached to the builders and gave them the mortars and the bricks. Thus was it done daily. And behold, these ascended and others descended the whole day. People went up and people came down the whole day. And if a brick should fall from their hands and get broken, the builders would all weep over it, but if a man fell and died, no one would even look upon him. And the Lord knew their thoughts, and it came to pass, when they were building, they cast the arrows towards the heaven, and all the arrows fell upon them, filled with blood. And when they saw the arrows, they said to one another, "Surely we have slain all those that are in heaven." Very stupid people that were building the tower. For this was from the Lord, in order to cause them to err, and in order to destroy them from off the face of the ground. And they built the tower and the city, and they did this daily until many days and years were elapsed. And God, Yahweh, said to the 70 angels who stood foremost before him, to those who were near to him, saying, "Come, let us descend and confuse their tongues, that one man shall not understand the language of his neighbor." And they did so unto them. And from that day following, they forgot each man his neighbor's tongue, and they could not understand to speak in one tongue. And when the builder took from the hands of his neighbor lime or stone, which he did not order, the builder would cast it away and throw it upon his neighbor, that he would die. And they did so many days, and they killed many of them in this manner. Now I'm come to verse 35, which is very interesting. And the Lord smote the 3 divisions that were there, and he punished them according to their works and the signs. Those who said, "We will ascend into heaven and serve our gods," became like apes and elephants. And those who said, "We will smite the heaven with arrows," the Lord killed them, one man through the hand of his neighbor. And the 3rd division of those who said, "We will ascend to heaven and fight against him," the Lord scattered them throughout the earth.
People often ask me, if we're descended from chimpanzees, how come there are still chimpanzees? Well, we're not descended from chimpanzees. We're both descended from a common ancestor who lived there about 6 million years ago. That common ancestor then produced 2 branches, one of which went to us humans, and one of which went to chimpanzees, branching further to produce bonobos and common chimpanzees. We are all cousins. We are not descended from chimpanzees. More distantly related are gorillas. They share a common ancestor with both us and chimpanzees. That's the common ancestor between gorillas and humans and chimps. So humans and chimps are a natural group which are related to gorillas, cousins of gorillas, and all of those animals, which are all African apes. The African apes are gorillas, humans, bonobos, and chimpanzees. All the African apes have a common ancestor with orangutans. That's the common ancestor with orangutans. Those are all the great apes. So the great apes are all cousins. Within the great apes, the African apes are closer cousins. Within the African apes, humans, bonobos, and chimps are closer cousins still, and within them, bonobos and chimpanzees are the closest cousins of all.
Now, this is so cool. This is so cool. The book of Yasher, I think this is the reason that the book of Yasher was never put into the Bible. They didn't want us to read the book of Yasher. They didn't want us to read the book of Enoch. Because, reading those books, the way they were written, knowing the history about these books, and then seeing what the world is being taught in the light of the word of the prophets, in the light of our ancestors that wrote down history many thousand years ago. I have to read verse 35 again. Remember Richard Dawkins standing there, and you came from the gorilla and that lie. Let me read from verse 35 again. This happened in Babel, many years ago. 35. And the Lord smote the 3 divisions that were there, and he punished them according to their works and their signs. Those who said, "We will ascend to heaven and serve our gods," became like apes and elephants. Science want to go to heaven and build space stations and send rockets and spacecrafts to other planets and explore out there. It is the wet dream of the academic of the academia. Richard Dawkins is an academia. So those gods that they serve, the academic gods, the symbolism and the philosophy of the academy, it is completely religious. Academia is a religion. But when we read this is historic text, this is what happened. Those people, the academics, those that would ascend to heaven and serve their own gods, they became like ape and elephants. And those who said that they would smite the heaven with arrows, the Lord killed them. One man taught through the hand of his neighbor, And the third division of those who said, "We will ascend to heaven and fight against him," the Lord scattered them throughout the earth. They are scattered throughout the earth. We have to deal with them now. And may Yahweh, the creator of the universe, bless us in Yeshua HaMashiach so that we do a good work. We don't have many days left.